Good to go?
Yes.
Cool. Hello, everyone. Excited to show you some of the work we've been doing over the past few months for Princeton, specifically the SPI website. So we're going to show you the art direction approach today. That's leading into the homepage mandate that we're launching in January. So we'll start with a few introductions. I'm Shane Collier. I'm an art director and UI designer at Evolving Web in Montreal. And I've been at Evolving Web for about 6 years now, so we've worked on quite a few projects, and the clients keep growing, Princeton being one of them, so we're excited to show the work today.
Thanks, Shane. John Cloys, Assistant Director of Web and Digital Initiatives for the Princeton School of Public and International Affairs. Say that 10 times fast. I've been there maybe about 8 years. Been with the Drupal community for a little over a decade, and look forward to sharing with you all what we've been up to for the past couple months. So the Princeton School of Public and International Affairs is one of Princeton's, I think, 3 schools. Princeton's unique. We don't have a medical school, we don't have a law school. And SPIA aims to bring together world-class scholarship and leaders with a deep commitment to public service. And we do this through evidence-based sort of analysis and approach to tackle public and international issues with impact. So we launched this brand maybe about 18 or so months ago, and one of the last sort of phases in this brand activation phase, if you will, is to revamp our website. And sort of the project goals here is to sort of refresh that online experience using the new brand, and you'll see some elements of that a little bit later. We hope to sort of centralize some of our news and events and stories, and through that take more of a brand narrative approach. So if you look at sort of news and events, right, rather than just saying news and events, say something like stories about service or events that foster dialogue, things like that. And we're really trying to sort of lean into sort of those more brand attributes, a little bit more of a marketing technique, which sort of hasn't really been done at Princeton too much. And all the while, of course, improving the usability and accessibility, and also support the recruitment and engagement rates of our content online. Throughout this process, we surveyed various audiences: prospective students, future students, our current students, a robust community of alumni, current faculty and staff, policymakers and researchers, and finally, the general public. Again, through sort of this brand narrative approach, if you will, we want to highlight some of our key differentiators that really hasn't been highlighted before. I think SPIA is one of the only schools that offers full tuition assistance for our graduate programs. Graduate students don't pay a dime. We have extremely small class sizes compared to some of our competitors, and it's sort of our tight-knit community of our alumni network that's going to help you find that job after you graduate. All the while, really showcasing the research of our faculty and how that comes through in our storytelling. So again, taking all this together, we hope to create sort of this modern, bold identity that sort of pushes the boundaries a little bit of the typical higher ed brand refresh. Take more of a human-centered storytelling approach. You can see here through some of the photography, and Shane will touch on this later, more the portraiture style. How do you evoke emotion, sort of create that ethos? And we want to remain flexible because we want to grow and scale over time.
So in terms of the art direction approach, the goal for this specific project was to approach it from a stylescape. So you can think of this as an advanced mood board. So it's this idea of, it's a curated list of brand assets, such as color, the use of typography, imagery, iconography. We can get into a few core UI elements, but we're not focusing necessarily on this vertical scroll. We're trying to set a few, this distinct personality of how to approach the website. And then one thing we did with this specific project is we did a component audit. It wasn't a full refresh, full redesign, so we had to be mindful about budget. So what we did was we looked at all the core components across the website, and we split it into a P1, being this is a strong brand moment, so we want to put some effort in here. This is a redesign. P2 is we have the core structure, but we can make some aesthetic adjustments. And then P3, you can think of accordion, more simple components. This is more of a refresh. So digging into a little bit more of the brand personality of what we were designing for. So right from the brand manual, it speaks about SPIA as being rational. So this idea of being intellectual, ambitious, and distinguished. There's an emotional mindset, purposeful, but intentionally so. They're active, and the actions taken to make it real. And this idea of being timeless, never stuff or stale. So John gave us the brand guidelines. We started to review it, the use of typography, colors, but there was a lot of work done that was very inspirational. So what we do is we set design principles. What sets this website apart from other websites? So specifically, one of them being this Pillars of Tomorrow. So you can see within the brand architecture, throughout Princeton, they're using these strong pillars. So the brand team that redid the brand got inspiration from the architecture, and this stood out to us. It's on their covers of their brand standards, some of the print materials, so it's a key distinguishing feature that we need to show prominently. So again, it's grounded in SPIA's 1930 legacy. It's this idea of adding rhythm and motion. It's lively, but also strong and supportive. There's opportunities for animation and 3D depth, and this idea of providing structure for layered typography. The next design principle that we saw as we dug into the brand guidelines was this use of vertical line work. So again, it relates to those pillars, the 3D pillar system. It guides hierarchy and spacing, organizes content. It's a clear distinguisher within photography as well as within the layouts. Another feature was the use of color. So this idea of being intentional. Each color represents different areas within the spectrum, from being more formal, bold, casual, and subtle. So there was different ways to approach colorizing this set of components. So this idea of creating balance, focusing attention, is a very editorial aspect too. So you're not seeing black and orange, which you would expect to see. It's a different take on the current brand. The next principle, as John touched upon, was this idea of being human. So it's about the stories of the students. It's the featured news, it's the featured events. It's lively action that's happening at the university. It's spotlighting community and this idea of making connections. It's use of artistic and unexpected viewpoints. And then it blends expansive scenes with intimate moments. So I said this word already, but editorial. So you can clearly see within some of the layouts, it has this magazine quality. So as a designer, this is great. So they're rethinking the way the grid is structured. There's asymmetry, it's bold, it's fresh, there's lots of white space. So this allows us to take this inspiration, which is quite nice, and translate it into a more digital platform. Next one is photos for impact. So again, they have great photography at Princeton, highlighting those students at work, building connections. So this idea of showcasing imagery throughout the website was something that we wanted to add as one of those strong design principles to immerse students within the energy of Princeton. So now the stylescape. So this is the fun part. So This is a more expansive version. For today's presentation, we did expand it a little bit more to show how the design can be fleshed out. But what you're going to see is this vertical version. We're going to zoom in, and you're going to start to see how we can treat typography, color. We start to integrate specific components. So we're starting to give the UI designer direction about how to take the website and start to integrate the brand into a more digital framework. So those pillars, as we discussed, was something very strong to Princeton. It's a differentiator. It's within the architecture. So there was this moment to set the stage right from the homepage, again with a bold H1. News and events was quite important to them, so they wanted to showcase quite a few different things above the fold. So we incorporated this interactive carousel that animates. As we shift forward, you can start to see how we're thinking about treating the use of color. So orange is still a key item that we'll be showing, and we'll show you how that's done. They're using two different typefaces, Interstate, which is mainly those all caps titles for those H1s and a few branded moments. And then Miller headline is more of that serif font, which is shown within the H2s to the H5s. So it's bringing in this nice sophisticated touch. Again, it's a very layered brand. So this is one of the postcards on the current website. So we consider this a P2. We're not rethinking the entire thing because it's reused in so many different areas of the website, but we are going to add some brand touches. So again, those pillars were quite important. So we incorporated that just within the shapes within the postcard. Again, the photos are the main focus. So in terms of the button states, it's very minimal and clean. Again, hard edges to mimic the pillars. And then photos as being like a central moment. Again, that editorial mindset. This was a key moment. We have to be mindful how we use this specific component because we give the content editors at Princeton full access to update their copy. We give them character sets to abide by as well as the image sizes. So they do have a lot of flexibility to update these components. So in this specific case, what's next? We got to be careful how we do this. So this could be, in this case, like join a newsletter mail list. So this could be a core component that sits above the footer. So we get our editorial aspect. It's being used maybe once or twice. So we can really be mindful about how that is being showcased. And then we start to bring in those pillars as the background textural elements, this idea of layering. Again, you think of an editorial magazine, there's lots of white space. So we wanted to lean in towards these nice moments of a breathing room. Again, moments to pull in the pillars using the key brand color orange to create this taller page feel. Again, leaning in towards asymmetry. They are branding a lot of the images as well, so you'll get main hits of the brand within imagery as well. So that's where we're pulling in orange too. In this, we have this on the current website, so this is considered more of a, it's a P2. So in this case, we added these vertical pillars to represent the brand shown within the editorial, so we could start to see how this can translate to components. And then within the metrics, we lean in towards a lighter typeface to, again, mimic those light pillars. And then there's moments to pull in orange within the metrics to help brand this component a little bit more strongly. And then again, it's all about hierarchy and contrast. So again, taller images, more vertically scaled images to relate to those core pillars. So this idea of strength and relating to what's actually shown in the image. There could be an opportunity for some interactive components along the way. We don't currently have this on the website, but there's an opportunity for this P1 to bring in some more interaction. This is one that is being implemented. So this is more of a horizontal accordion. So again, we're starting to look at how we can start to bring in multiple tiers of color while still having different types of information. And then starting to look at a few moments within these overline statements to pull in a few different typefaces that are being represented within the brand. And then again, this is a key brand moment, so although that's not an H1, we can start to integrate different types of typography, so it's not always the standard H1. We can have more of a display. And within a few of these key components, we started to look at pulling in that pillar of orange to start to blend in with the imagery. So more interactivity within the component, larger H2s, lots of white space. And then we saw moments to pull in a color within the actual block quotes. And then playing with the typefaces to bring in more of that nice contrast. And again, highlighting those students, we can use these more duotone background approaches when we don't need the pillars to scream everywhere, but they're showcased within the typography or photography. Again, you get more into those news and events pages, which are, as John said, are quite important. So we could have this pillar system that scrolls down the entire vertical of the page. So we get that hit of the orange, but also the pillar. And as you scroll, it forms this even taller pillar, so it's this idea of strength. So looking at the paragraph styling, start to seeing how we can approach the typography of those articles. Looking at ways to pull in captions with imagery. There could be some characters where we pull in that arch as well in a more subtle way. And this was a direct reference from what was shown on that print inspiration, but the font the designer chose was a lighter font, so in this case it wasn't going to pass accessibility, so we pulled in the more text hue. Then we have a branded item or aspect at the bottom, so that could be a simple SVG, but it still brings in that brand aspect. So these could be on banners, for instance. Again, ideas to bring in some more interactivity and movement from the page. It's quite static currently, so a few unexpected moments where we can lean into the typography, but as you scroll, you'll get some interaction. Again, treating the events, they were quite important, so opportunities to integrate typography and imagery and the pillars all within this one unit while still having the rounded corner. So you saw that postcard from the very beginning, so this is a variant based off this, so the devs will build it. It's based off that main component, so we're not rethinking the entire wheel. They can base it off that core component and then build it in a different way. And essentially, we can also make this a variant as the website grows too with the background. There's a few different colors that can be integrated. So based off the person's clothing, we could curate that to the specific background. And then, the website is quite left aligned, so there are these moments to integrate this more editorial centered approach to highlight the dean or specific students or programs. And the current site does have these image cards, so this was that P3. So we weren't rethinking it in this case. Their photos are beautiful. We can let those shine and can save some dev time as well. And another way to incorporate the pillars. Then we've reached one of the final components, which is like the news and events page. So the website is quite white, but they do have this darker hue where we can incorporate in some backgrounds as well to make this more sophisticated approach. And then it's a good opportunity to bring in some of those secondary hues, like the blue in this case for the specific dates. So what we've done now, you've seen the stylescape, so we passed this on along to our UI designer, and she started to incorporate this into the home page. So this is a preview of what we've been working on recently. So you can start to see how that stylescape carries over to the home page. It's not a direct 1-for-1 ratio. Our designer had a great idea to incorporate this component. This wasn't previously in the art direction, but she had a great idea. So this is where she saw these opportunities to expand upon what was set. And I added it to the art direction because it was so great, and I wanted to present it to you. But this is where you can see how the art director and then the UI designer start to collaborate, and it starts to build something even better. And I'll pass it off to John.
Great. So I thought we would conclude with a couple of key takeaways. I encourage everybody to sort of evaluate your sort of those static brand guidelines. How many people in here actually reference their brand guidelines or look at them with a critical eye on a regular basis? My guess would be probably not too many, but look at them pretty regularly. Review your colors, your typography, your photography, and sort of see how that sort of enhances your storytelling. Again, it's sort of that narrative approach. Look at all your digital touch points, your emails, your socials, videos, and see if there's other opportunities to apply those stylings that you haven't thought before. And then sort of identify where some of those components, again, kind of the second point, where you can scale those. What are those opportunities as well?
I think we have just a few minutes for questions if anyone has a question.
It looked really amazing one, by the way. The first thing that just comes to mind is nowadays with like light mode, dark mode, and high contrast accessibility mode. Is that being taken into consideration with these color choices and contrast and stuff? Because a lot of times, once you pass it over to another team or something like that, you can end up putting on non-contrasting colors, or if the person's device is not supporting it, or you have plans to have that in the new site design.
Definitely. Accessibility is very important to us, and we adhere to strict guidelines with that. As Shane mentioned, we've been tweaking some of the contrast ratios with some of the font treatments and color backgrounds as well.
Great, and like and then limited options available, so
Correct.
Okay. Is there going to be like a toggle on the site to like switch from light to dark for user preferences?
Not at the moment, but it's something we can definitely consider.
Like Shane, you kept talking about how like this is like a moment that's created by the image, like putting this focus on the image, and obviously some of the images, especially you have here, are like very striking and pull in the orange in a certain way, like even like the colors of the desk, it's like kind of orange. So I'm wondering like how much the brand dictates the images that you have, like does it provide a library, and then how do you maintain that over time to have these types of images?
Lots of curated photo shoots, and I think it's something we're trying to lean into more of that portraiture style. I don't know if you heard me say that earlier, but something that can sort of capture that emotion, that ethos that we're going for, while illustrating some of the impact and maybe the evolution of some of the research over time.
So you had a photo shoot for the brand, as part of the brand
Correct,
exercise?
yeah.
So you have buy-in from the folks with the purse strings to support that sort of thing.
It's tough.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Thank you, everyone. Oh, you have a question?
Last question. You're basing all this on an existing system. What's the timeline for like revamping everything based on your component-based approach?
It's around 2 years, but I think once we get past sort of this hurdle and have sort of a collection of 10 or 12 sort of components and variations, the sort of cascading approach will be faster over time.
And just curious, why not do everything from scratch on a B site and then push something new? What directed the decision for this approach?
I think sort of budget and also to create that buy-in from stakeholders and constituents across the schools and our 30+ centers and programs.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Last quick one. The identification grabbing the pillar concept is really nice. I really like was there any other like alternative options you pitched to stakeholders, or that was just like the first one you guys gravitated towards? Or?
The building is quite unique to the school, and so we sort of really leaned into that and
I see.
sort
Very
of
nice.
grew organic.
How does the brand work with the rest of the school? How does this particular school work with the rest of the
For the university.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's one of those things where because of our size and depth and breadth, we're unique in so many different ways, but we try to lean into the university's style guide and some of their principles. I don't think you have it here, but we use some of the iconography that they have in their style guides. Obviously, the Princeton orange is a prominent color throughout.
But this is much less orange than the current site.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll get the next speaker up.
Thank you.